Questioning the tradition is the tradition. Asking hard questions of the tradition, it's not only the tradition, it's in fact the lifeblood of every tradition. But here's the thing. Ask those hard questions and you're gonna piss off a lot of really good people. I know, I did it, got excommunicated for doing it. We've got a problem, we human beings. We crave certainty. We love our truths to be absolute. We love tidy answers to the really big unknowns in life, but certitude is not as available as we would love it to be. So remember what Socrates said. Truth, goodness, beauty, let's acknowledge they exist, but let's also acknowledge we don't know them. We don't know what they are. And let's also acknowledge that the folks who tell us that they do, they don't know either. Our love affair with certitude is a problem. It's a problem that hinders our growth, makes it difficult, makes it uncomfortable, because growth often happens in the uncertain places, the messy, uncertain places. That's where the old ways of thinking, the old ways of believing start to wobble. That's where the pat answers that we once held, they just don't hold up anymore. And that's where we start to see things we haven't seen before. That's where we start to learn things we have not known before. The foundation that we must lay before we begin rebuilding our spiritual communities. Now, we've been saying for some time, religion is dying. But if new ways are going to be found, they're not going to be found holding on to certainties that we inherited. Which, I know, is such a lovely idea, isn't it? So pretty. But here's the thing. It can get really ugly, and it gets really ugly very quickly. People get squirrely in times of uncertainty. Religious people especially. Religion has a well-earned reputation for resisting the wisdom of Socrates. In fact, teaching us, either tacitly or explicitly, don't ask too many questions. Don't rock the boat too much. These are timeless truths. You must not mess with them. So, when a religion is dying, that's a real problem. Without asking hard questions of the tradition, religion will never get out of the death spiral. Religion will keep ossifying. Blind spots will stay blind. And religion will keep turning away from the change it's dying for. The tragedy is, asking the hard questions, the thing we resist the most, is the very thing we need the most. I wrote a book back in 2012, Rethinking Our Story. To help me write it, I did a series of Wednesday evening lecture discussions in our community, topics that eventually became the book. So I would do 4 Wednesdays on each section of the book. First one, rethinking how we think about, how we talk about, how we feel about God. Then I'd take a month off and I'd do another 4 Wednesdays on human nature, and then Jesus and so forth. Well, the last lecture series was going to be rethinking the afterlife. Now, all year I knew, everybody knew that one was coming. But when it was time, I delayed for a month, and then another month, and then another month after that. Now, I was prepared, it wasn't that. I'd been asking the hard questions of the tradition for a long time. No, my delay was because of the weight that I felt asking hard questions of the tradition. Because again, people love certitude. And it turns out they especially love certitude about the afterlife. I knew what I was going to say. I was going to say, we just don't know. We don't have certitude. Consequently, we ought not to make the afterlife the organizing center of our religion. But the weight, we've got the tradition, we've got people's certitude upsetting the apple cart, the weight. Well, it turned out fine. In fact, it was a relief for a lot of people, but that's not the point. The point was those several months of me not acting because I felt so much, the heaviness. Reimagine our religion, reimagine our spiritual communities, normalize asking hard questions of the tradition, and we're going to have to deal with that weight. The fear that lurks in the back of our minds, maybe unconsciously, the very real possibility that even asking those questions will get us some version of Socrates' hemlock cocktail. It did for me. Again, I got excommunicated once I wrote that book. Once it was published, I was out. Ask hard questions and we invite the very real possibility of very real loss. Here's a question Socrates asked the young people of Athens. Is what is holy, holy, he asked, because the gods say it's holy? Or do the gods say it's holy because it already is? Now that is asking hard questions of the tradition. Maybe cost him his life. He's asking, what are the gods and what are they not? What can they do? What can they not? Let's ask. He's teaching those young people to question everything that everyone they know had told them is real and true. So there in Athens, at the very fountainhead, the formation of the Western mind, there he is planting the seed, the instinct to, the permission to, the mandate to question inherited beliefs and traditions. But it's not just Socrates. There's Jeremiah doing the same. There's the psalmists doing the same. There's Jesus doing the same, got him crucified. There's Buddha insisting that his followers test everything, even the sacred words. The question askers and the boat rockers, they were not outside the tradition. They were the lifeblood of the tradition. And they still are now. That's especially true in times when religion is dying. The question askers and the boat rockers are the lifeblood of the tradition. So it's a contradiction, you know. Every tradition insists we ask hard questions of the tradition, and every tradition has a hemlock cocktail ready for anyone who does. You might have read Richard Rohr's book. The subtitle is Order, Disorder, Reorder. It's the way of renewal. We inherit some set of beliefs, some set of rules, some set of systems. Order. They break. They malfunction. They fail. Disorder. We ask hard questions. We learn new things. We create a wiser, more spacious order. Reorder. Order, disorder, reorder. And because that is the way of renewal, asking hard questions is not betraying the tradition. It is how the tradition lives again. So, leaders of deconstructing, reconstructing spiritual communities, how can we help our people feel their permission to ask hard questions of the tradition? Well, we can use our platforms to teach our communities that questioning the tradition is the tradition. You will not have to look far. History is full of examples. We can use our platforms to model hard question asking. We can say out loud, I am questioning this part of the tradition or that part of the tradition. We can use our platform to teach Fowler's stages of faith, pointing out that at one point in the journey, stage 4, where, interestingly, a lot of deconstructing people are, at that point, if we don't question the tradition, our spiritual lives will not move forward. We can use our platforms to point out the tradition is dying. And in dying times, asking hard questions of the tradition is exactly what the tradition demands of us. Well, after I published that book, my denomination threw a heresy trial for me. That was something to remember. One of the inquisitors during the process shook his head at me and said, "Where do you get the gall to question the unquestionable? Who do you think you are?" Now, most folks in our communities don't have to deal with that, but they deal with the same feeling that evokes. Yeah, who am I to question this long-standing tradition? Where do I get the gall? I responded to my inquisitor rather simply like this. I said, well, I think I get my gall from this simple fact. We're dying. Like every other denomination out there, doing what we're doing, thinking what we're thinking is killing us. Now, I'm not sure, I told him, that my way of questioning is the best way, but I am sure that it's better than not questioning. Because defending the status quo is killing us. Just look around. Now that is a simple truism that we can give to our people to help them feel their permission to question the tradition. In our time, we are either going to throw our own reformation, rethink and rebuild everything we know about everything, or we're going to watch as our tradition continues to die. Again, asking hard questions does not threaten the tradition. It's the lifeblood of the tradition. Now, in the next episode, if questioning the tradition is essential, how do we actually do it? What will help us question well, maybe without blowing everything up? Well, if you'd like to see that episode come out, subscribe. You won't want to miss it.